So Joe, tell me a little bit about your paintings. That's another thing during the class you mentioned that you have like 1,000 paintings or something like that. Are
No,
there?
it's not 1,000, but I do sketches and paintings a lot. And usually what I do when I finish them, somebody will go, "Oh, that's really cool," and I'll just give it to them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't do any of my artwork as a profession, although I could. When I was when I was in my senior year of high school, I was working for an architectural firm in Miami on my part time, and I did all the printing of the statements and lettering on the architectural plans that their employees did. They hated
Mhm.
doing the lettering, so I'd go in there after school and letter all the stuff that they hadn't lettered, and made very good money doing it.
Right.
And in fact, they thought I would join that architectural firm when I got out of school, and I fooled them. I went in the army instead. But um, I also uh, had straight A's in in the drawing class I had. I had a drawing class in high school, and I drew all the plans for the school. I don't know what to call it, playhouse, or the place where the football team gets their equipment on, and the baseball players get all their equipment out of storage, and it's kind of like a support building for high school athletics. Um, I wanted to do a plan for a big basketball auditorium, but they didn't have the money for that, so somebody else found it. So I've always been interested in that. The reason why basically is when I was very, very young, my father was a great artist, even though he
Mhm.
never got finished with his school. When I was about three, he would always put me in my high chair,
Mhm.
and it had a tray in the front. And he'd take a toy, and he would take like a little toy airplane or car or whatever, and he put it on a shelf, and he put the paper in front of me, and he'd sketch it with a pencil.
Oh,
Okay. And then he put a
that's a
fresh
good
piece of paper in
good tip.
and hand me a crayon, and he'd
Mhm.
point to the toy and walk out of the room. And I would try to draw the toy.
Wow.
Now, obviously, I was not real good when I started,
Well, yeah, right, right.
but I was encouraged so much by him. And he knew that I had that skill, and he wanted me to keep polishing it. And
Mhm.
so I did. Everywhere I went, I'd find some reason to sketch it or make some kind of an artistic event. Um, but I do it because it's a great way to relax. Uh,
Right.
because my mind is just working on that. My real claim to fame though is sculpture.
Sculpture. Okay.
Yeah, I always want to be a good sculptor, and
Mhm.
I didn't know how, and so when I hit about my 70th birthday, I bumped into a guy who just retired. He was the the head sculptor for the Cochrane Museum in Washington D.C., and
Mhm.
he just retired.
Mhm.
And he wanted to start a small studio in my town out in the country, Central Virginia, Nelly's Ford. And he didn't have enough money to rent the room, so I said, I'll share it with you if you teach me. So I spent 6 years sharing a studio with him,
Wow.
and I learned a hell of a lot from him.
Mm.
And he came in one morning, and he looked around, and he looked at what I was working on, and he said, "Get out." I said, "What?" He said, "Pack up and get out."
Oh
I
no.
said, "What'd I do?" And he said, "You're starting to look too much like me."
Ah.
So I left the studio and brought all my stuff home. So I still do sculpting, and the reason I like sculpture it's really hard to do a figure in
Mm-hmm.
clay or plastic or whatever that actually delivers the emotion of what it is that person is. It's
Mm-hmm.
like most people think, oh, well, you have these get-togethers where you have a live model,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps you. Well, it does, but
Mm-hmm.
not when they're all perfect. Everybody goes to these places where they always have a perfect model, the
Right.
muscular male,
Right.
the thin female,
Beautiful
beautiful
girl.
female. No, no. One of the best works I ever did was a woman who was 8 months pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm.
when
Wow.
the class was done, there were about five of us. When the class was done, she went around and actually looked at all the statues that people had done, and she said, "Wow, uh, I love yours." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because when I look at it, I can feel
Wow.
motherhood." And so I gave it to her. I just handed it to her. It was
Wow.
clay. And I said, you got to
Right.
be careful with it because it's clay. Uh,
Did you make like a hand holding the belly, kind of like that?
Actually, both hands under the belly, folded
Okay.
under the
Okay.
belly, and very relaxed look with her head kind of tilted to one side with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, when you saw it, it just made you think this is someone very comfortable with the idea of making a human.
Mm-hmm.
And, and a lot of people liked it. And
Right.
so, it I like to try to capture the emotion of the
Right.
thing. But it takes time,
Right.
and my time is uh, very special to me,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I'm busy all the time with
Right.
some outside problem.
Right.
So
Right. 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 Right.
you know, you do what you can,
That's right.
but you
Well,
could
that's a,
you could see behind me. This is all my stuff. I have one, two, three, four, five, six glass display cases of just bits and things I picked up all over the world.
mm-hmm.
And I have a little corner that's got all my African stuff, mask and that sort of thing. And I even have a glass case. It's got all the statues of elephants that I fell in love with.
Mm-hmm.
That's I surround myself with it
With
because it
art.
makes me feel good.
Right.